It's slightly higher than the lowest of the estimates that some analysts were forecasting. But, a tenth of a percentage point here or there doesn't really matter. What really matters is the symbolism. And at 7.4%, that makes 2014 the first year in well over a decade in which China has missed its government growth forecast. More significantly, perhaps, the lowest level of growth in well over 20 years. Now, China still enjoys a huge annual growth rate. A growth rate of over 7% would be the envy of many an economy elsewhere. But the important thing is that this is a signal of the kind of adjustment that we're going through because historically over the last decade or so, growth here has been so high. And the big questions are, how will China adjust to this new, much more moderate level of growth? Of course, the debate is this a terrible thing, a sign of some sort of structural weakness that the whole world should be concerned about? Or is it actually a more positive sign that China is going through a long-awaited and badly needed restructuring, which may be painful, which may see more moderate levels of growth, but in the end will lead to a much more sustainable and healthy model for the future of the Chinese economy? The big thing for China, and I think what analysts will be looking at in the detail of this data, is what it tells us about the balance of China's economy today. What proportion, for example, is based on consumption. The idea that China needs to shift to a more consumption-based model. The idea that simply pumping huge amounts of government money into big infrastructure projects, the old model, if you like, the old dirty model, the old pollution-creating model, that is simply unsustainable. China could not go on indefinitely increasing its economy by 10, 11, 12% a year with those sorts of policies. People will be looking to see what the consumption part of these figures tell us about the state of the Chinese economy today. And of course, if consumption is still weak, then of course we may see policies overtly or perhaps implicitly stated that China is going to manipulate the currency to try to make imports cheaper. That of course may help stimulate domestic demand. But the other thing people are expecting, at 7.4%, I think it's inevitable we will see some extra form of stimulus. The idea of China either giving more money to the banks to lend or cutting interest rates further to try to get people spending. That now is the big target, the big game in town. Growth, we know, is going to be lower. This in many ways isn't a surprise today. The big question is what can China do about it, and how can it take this new model and get it on a more healthy footing based on consumer spending taking up a much bigger proportion, as it does elsewhere in the world.